Hey, what's going on, CoinOpTV subscribers? Robert Alkenny here. In this video, I want to talk about the brand new TV show on Apple TV Plus called See, S-E-E. And we're going to talk about the first 3 episodes. First couple of minutes of this video won't be spoilers. It'll be a little bit of a recap, things that you might have seen in the trailer. And then a few minutes in, we'll sort of talk about specifics, spoilers, and details. And I'll give you a little bit of a heads up warning with that. I also put up a video yesterday with my impressions and recap and reactions to the morning show, and I'll put a link to that in the description below, so hopefully you check that out. I'm diving into these Apple TV Plus shows to see what they're all about, and hopefully we can drive some comments and reactions from you guys at home watching this video. And if you're brand new, please subscribe, hit the like button, the bell icon, and all that fun stuff. So let's get started with C. I got my notes here on my iPad, so we're going to talk about that with my notes there. So episode 1 is called God Flame, and I believe that's a reference to the sun coming down on the tribes of the earth. If you don't know about the premise of the show, something that's happened that's made everybody sort of blind. Nobody can see it all. Well, a few people can see here and there that we sort of find out along the way. So that's kind of the premise of the show. What would happen? How would you act? How would you dress? How would you cook? How would you eat? How would you fight if you couldn't see at all? And it's a sort of an interesting concept, a conceit to sort of dive into, that kind of what if situation. Now, first of all, let me just say the show is visually interesting. A lot of it takes place in the woods, waterfalls, mountains, trees, forests. It's shot very nice. It's shot, it's sort of, the show's from the guy who did like the last 3, the Hunger Games movies and stuff. So cinematically, it's got an interesting sort of flair to it. It kind of reminds me of like the 100, the recent Planet of the Apes movies. Let's talk about episode 1, God Flame. Jason Momoa stars in the science fiction fantasy epic about tribes living and fighting in a world where everyone is blind. Most of the stuff you've seen from the trailer. Jason Momoa's character is called Voss, and he runs the Alkenny tribe, and his partner, his lover, about to give birth to a couple of twins. First episode has a little exposition to the world and the characters, but kicks things off really with a brutal battle between Voss's tribe and this invading Witchfinders tribe that is they're assisted by dogs and horses and birds. They've leveled up definitely in the world of the different tribes out there surviving. Nobody can see, so it's sort of interesting to see how the fight choreography goes, and who's fighting who, or how do you attack, how do you respond. There's a lot of touching and feeling and sounds and smells being used. They have little whips they'll flip around to sort of see if there's trees or anything in front of them, and everybody has a stick so they can tap on the ground to see where the ground is. Hopefully they've got a lot of things sort of heightened senses and awareness to them over the years, especially if they're born with this affliction. I kind of expected to see moments during the fight where companions actually knifed and stabbed and choked one another, because who can see who's fighting who, but that didn't seem to happen. It seemed like everything was a little planned out there where the good guys and the bad guys were fighting against each other. It's not long into the episode that the tribe has to flee due to the fear of kind of a larger, more advancing, intimidating, invading force coming. And so it turns out that there's this bridge that this mysterious character who impregnated Voss's partner left them sort of a trail, some breadcrumbs to follow. So they go over this bridge. Again, all this stuff is in the trailer, and they escape across this bridge, and they kind of go on to some new adventures. The show's highly stylized, costumes, makeup, wardrobe, everything looks very outstanding. Jason Momoa's acting and presence is understated, and he's very serious. Kind of reminds me more of his character from Game of Thrones than the Aquaman persona that he's kind of more famous for now. So that's kind of cool. And you can easily kind of forget that the actors are kind of faking the blindness, because they actually do a pretty well job with that. So okay, let me get into a little bit more specifics, breaking down some of the episodes and things like that. Again, I'm talking about episodes 1, 2, and 3, because that's what Apple TV Plus has dropped all at once, the first 3 episodes there. So let's talk about some of the spoilers. Not much really to spoil in episode 1. I feel like if you've seen the trailer, you know what kind of happens in episode 1. But the area that I wanted to talk about that was really weird and off and strange for me is when we jumped over to Queen Kane, the villain of the show, and her tribe, and we meet her. And at first she sort of seems enigmatic and interesting, and she sort of quickly turns into almost like a villain caricature when she randomly decides that she needs to pleasure herself and spout some chants and prayers, and they basically show all this on camera and stuff. It's very sort of weird. It was actually a little uncomfortable to watch. I'm glad I was kind of watching by myself, not with my family, or, it's definitely an R-rated show, and it's bloody and brutal and gory. And then, of course, we get into this kind of stuff, which, made it seem very strange and out of left field. I don't know how that kind of came to be approved, because most of the rest of the episode I found interesting and clever and stuff like that. So let's get on to, so that was kind of a little, my impressions of episode 1, fun, a little silliness there, that one scene with the queen. So let's get into episode 2. It's called Message in a Bottle. We meet Jerla Morel, who saves Baba Voss from attacking Bear. And he gives him instructions to find this book so that he can give them to his twins when he gets older. And, he says, hey, you got to wait till they're like 12 before you give them a book. So we're introduced to the shadows, which appear to be roaming outsiders that I couldn't quite tell if they had the ability to see or not. I mean, they had the gal that they showed in white makeup was moving around pretty easily, like she could see. We get to see a shadow that Gether and his lover summon. These, of course, the betrayers of the tribe that are sort of still living among them. And they decide that they want the shadow to spy on Paris, who's sort of the shaman of the tribe, played, of course, by Alfre Woodard. That's kind of a new twist or a new introduction to some characters there. I will see if the shadow keeps reappearing, in different tribes or something like that. Unfortunately, things go downhill again. We're given another scene with Queen Kane, who again needs something sexual in order to communicate with her gods, or her god. I don't know if it's one or two, but so these scenes just seem really kind of out of left field. And if I was the executive producer of the show, I think I would have just decided against that, because it kind of ruins the whole episode when these scenes of Queen Kane come in and she's trying to be mysterious and strange and different and offbeat, and then this like, hey, we're gonna pray and masturbate at the same time. I don't know. You guys let me know in the comments below what you think of that stuff there, the decision to do that. So eventually we find out that the twins can see. Of course, if you've seen this in the trailer, you know this already. This episode 2, is less exciting than the first one. Almost feels like lots of filler and padding. And as you can tell from my tone of voice, did not enjoy episode 2 a whole lot, especially as much as episode 1. But the good news is episode 3 was really good. Episode 3 is called Fresh Blood. This is, it seems like with the Apple TV shows, this is going to be the case. Is the first 2 episodes seem to be not that great. And then you get episode 3, and then things actually slow down, and a little more character world building sort of things happening, and it makes it more interesting. So episode 3, Fresh Blood. Of course, the twins are older now. Some time has passed. Again, the show is just looking even more visually stunning and impressing, and it's engaging to sort of watch, even if you turn off the sound. It just looks like very cinematic. We've jumped ahead now 17 years since the first episode. So the twins are teenagers. They're older. They're more developed. They know how to read and make weapons, and we see them sort of hanging out on the side of the hill there, reading their books and communicating, talking about the tribe and the nuances of things. So they're a little more fleshed out. They're starting to actually get a little more rebellious. The female twin actually points her bow and arrow at one of the tribesmen and says, like, hey, I could just kill these people and they won't even know. They'll think their god did it. An arrow fell from above. So it's interesting to see, like, the difference between, hey, there's a couple people that can see versus the rest of the world that's blind, and the reaction with that and the rebellious nature. So The Alkenny tribe visits a festival gathering, and they witness another tribe burning some so-called witches at the stake. So we sort of start to see a little more what's going on with different tribes around this world here. The male twin, Kofan, is kidnapped by some slavers, and the show kind of veers off in a little bit of direction here, so we see a little more of broken down cars and buildings and the world, the dilapidated world out there. And we learn that Baba Voss, his dad, or his stepdad, used to be a slaver, and he has to go inside the slaver camp and save him. There's this giant brutal fight scene with Baba Voss, Jason Momoa's character. We get to see how he can fight like 1 against like 10, using his sound and kind of some trickeries. And that's a brutal fight scene right there. I like that fight scene a lot. A lot of sword going through the neck, chopping people's heads off. And that was pretty cool. So, and then the female twin, Hanawa, she shows up at the end and gets the final kill with her bow and arrow. It's her first human kill. We'll see how that affects her mentally. And then the twins confess to their mom that they've been reading the books all along. The Paris has given him my puppy Scout wants to get on camera. He's jumping around there. Scout, say hi to the stream CoinOpTV watchers at home there. This episode ends with the Witchfinder General showing up on the edge of the cliffs there. So overall, I would say with C, this show is impressive, with the exception of a couple of silly scenes with the Queen. I kind of liked it overall. I mean, I'm a fan of fantasy and science fiction. I liked watching The 100, Game of Thrones, fantasy shows like that. And it's definitely brutal and intense. And I'll be curious to see how C kind of dives even further into the world building, the characters, and the different tribes. It seems like episode 4, we're going to have another big battle between the Witchfinders and the Alkenny tribe there. So I just hope that the things just ramp up more and more, and it'd be great to have like another big show that ends every episode on like a big giant cliffhanger, and the season ends and some intense things. And I just hope it doesn't get silly and wacky. I could easily see it going in that direction. So right now I'm a little on the fence. I'm looking forward to see what happens with episode 4. So thanks for watching this video, and let me know in the comments below if you've seen any of C, what you think of Jason Momoa's performances and some of the other stuff going on in the show. If you guys are brand new, please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell for CoinOpTV. We'll see you guys next time.